What's up guys, Dakota here, and as you can see the Jeep has its hood up, and that's because in today's video we're going to be installing a new air intake for the Jeep. Now I'm sure some of you are wondering, well, why are you putting an intake in if it's a Jeep and it's supposed to go off-road, it's not a sports car? Well, that is correct. Mainly I'm doing the intake simply because I just want a little bit better sound. A lot of intakes claim that they will add 20 horsepower, 20 wheel horsepower, whatever it is. Sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not. That's not why I am personally doing it. I'm doing it simply because on the highway, around town, and when I'm out on the trails, I'd like it to have a bit better sound when the engine is under load. Again, it's not a sports car, but it's just something that I kind of want. So the specific intake that I got is it's not a fully open intake, just because I didn't feel comfortable getting one that was completely open to where the elements and stuff when I'm out on the trail can get in there and mess something up. Which doesn't seem to be the case, because if you look, the engine bay is actually extremely clean, and I've taken this off-road a bunch of times. Now it's only got 16,000 miles on it, so that's probably why, but anyways, like I said, we're gonna get it installed today and kind of show you guys step by step what we need to do, and I'll go ahead and show you guys the intake that I got, as well as the tools you need to install it on yours. And then afterwards, I'll show you guys a before and after clip of what they sound like inside as well as outside of the vehicle. All right, so this is everything that it comes with. It comes with the air box, the tube, the O-ring that you're gonna use, as well as some of the other components and washers in here. And then this is gonna connect up to the throttle body. And then we've got the actual filter itself. And now all that you need, according to the instructions, is a 4mm Allen wrench. You need a 10mm socket and ratchet. They say to use an extension, so I've got one here, as well as a T20 and T30 Torx bit, and I've got a ratchet to go along with those. And then they say you need a flat head screwdriver. So we're gonna go ahead and start by disconnecting the battery, and we'll go from there. All right, so K&N suggests that the first thing you do is disconnect the negative of the battery. So I went ahead and did that. It was just a 10mm socket, hence where they said you needed that. And then the next step is they want you to remove this little guy right here. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. All right. There we go. Got that guy connected, or disconnected, I guess we should say. There's just a little tab right here that you just gotta press down, and then it just slides right out. All right, then the next thing we gotta do is disconnect the crankcase vent line, which is this guy right here. And then after that, we're basically gonna be taking off this screw, this, and this, and then we'll be moving on to the O-ring over here. All right. And you're also going to be using the 10mm socket for these bolts right here. So as you can see, we got 3 of them. And so we're just going to go ahead and just going to start cranking away at these bad boys. And then as far as the intake is concerned, that's mainly it. There is an extra step that I'll show you guys here in a second that I didn't know would be a thing. Last time I did this on my Camaro, it was basically all you did was just remove the intake, and that was it. But on this, you're actually going to have to remove this piece right here, which is interesting. So I'll get these unscrewed, and I'll come back to you guys in a second. Alright guys, and then the next step is after you undo those bolts, those 10mm bolts, you're just going to unscrew this O-ring that connects the intake tube to the throttle body. And then once we do that, we're going to remove it, and then on to the next step. So like I said, you're just going to use that screwdriver, and you're literally just going to loosen this to where it's no longer snug and tight up against the throttle body here. One other thing I also forgot is after you disconnect the inlet air temp sensor, you are going to need to take these out. I don't know how well you can see this, but it's got these little plastic screws with these ridges in here. Now I don't believe that you need these anymore once we install the new one, but just in case, I'm just going to grab some pliers here and just pull them out, but keep them in these little plastic, they basically look like zip ties if you look at it close enough, if it'll focus. It looks like they were just cut at the factory, basically just zip ties. So like I said, I'm just gonna grab some pliers and pull these guys out just to keep these little things on there. Then once we get rid of these guys, we'll be able to take this off and start on the interesting part. All right, so one other little thing that the instructions actually don't point out is that back here, there's a little tab that's connected to the air intake. So when you get everything taken off, you still are gonna have to just pop this little guy out, and then it'll be completely free. But they do not mention that in the instructions here. As you can see, it's zip tied to this tube here from the radiator. So I'm gonna pop this guy out, and then this guy will be free. All right, so we got the intake tube removed here. Now we're gonna get rid of the actual air box where the filter is. Now this part actually is connected down basically about right here, underneath the light. So you'll be able to take this off, but then we're gonna have to undo 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those little tabs to remove this little piece, and then we're going to take basically the front face off, and then there's like 2 screws that you got to get to there, basically like right here. And then we'll be able to take this out and pop in the new one. All right guys, sorry, I'm like super sweaty because again, Texas humidity. This next part is actually going to be kind of sketchy. You're basically supposed to grab the bottom of the grill and pop out these 8 little pins that are basically all along here. So we're gonna try to pop it off and hopefully not break it, because that would really suck. So like I said, you're gonna start, they say to start at one side and then firmly pull it. So we're gonna go ahead and see if we can knock that out. All right, so one of the things that I'm gonna do to make it a little easier to try to get my hands underneath here is just pop out these 2 little pins and remove this plastic piece. Is literally all this does. It's just a to make it not look like there's such a big gap. So I'm gonna pop that off, and then I'm gonna try to see if I can pop it off. I'm gonna start from this side and then just see if I can work those pins out, and we're gonna go from there. All right, got one side done. Oh, that sounds awful. Alright, now I have its face. Alright guys, now that we got the face of the Jeep off, what you had to do was basically, there's these 2 little crossbars here. You just unscrew it, and then you can kind of let it hang here, and then you undo these 2 screws. These are the T20 screws. These are the T30s, so that's what you need those for. And once you take these out, then this becomes freed up, so you can actually remove it. I say as I'm having trouble removing it, but once you do that, you will be able to get this guy out. And then those little tabs that the bumper's connected to go right here, as you can see. So they go all along there. And yeah, so basically what I'm going to do is get this guy out and then go ahead and put these screws back in. Now once we get that taken care of, then we can go ahead and work on the new intake. Okay guys, a little update. So this, on my particular vehicle, these little grommets here are in the bottom, and these were in there super tight. Like I had to actually stand up on the bumper and yank it up. Now if you're a taller guy, maybe that'll be easier for you, but I genuinely had to get on the bumper and then like pull up in order to get that guy out. And then we're gonna pop in the grill again and then install the new intake. Hopefully that'll be the easiest part. There have been a few hiccups along the way, so like I said, Hopefully it'll be a little bit easier, that way we can get this thing on the road and see what it sounds like. All right, so now that we got everything out of there, all we're gonna do now is connect back this brace, and these are your T30 screws, or you no longer have to put back in the T20 torque screws because there's nothing to connect it to, as you can see there. So we're just gonna screw these guys back in and then go ahead and put the grill back on. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and reinstall the face, although it's upside down. There we go. All right, now that we got that done, we're gonna pop back in those plastic little push pins that go right here, and then the front will be done, and then I'm gonna put on this little trim piece here that I took off to get to the underneath here. Now I have the steel bumper. If you don't have the steel bumper, it might be a little bit different. From what I remember, you should probably still take off that little piece anyways. Okay, so once you get everything out, you're gonna start to work on the new air box. Now inside, I don't know if you can see here, you see where that screw is? That's a 10mm screw, and you're gonna connect these guys up to the bottom of here. And if you have a small enough socket, then just go ahead and use that. I've got a relatively small one here that'll fit perfectly inside and allow me to ratchet it down. If not, that's where that extension will come in. You will need a pretty good size one though if you can't quite fit your ratchet in there, but like I said, I've got a small enough ratchet to where I can make it work. And then once you do that, you're basically just going to assemble these pieces together and pop it in the Jeep. Alright guys, so next step is you got to install this little guy onto the new intake tube. Now you want to be careful because the threads on here are plastic on this little piece, so you want to be careful that you're not gonna strip it. Now my particular one is a little gunked up, so I'm just giving it a little bit of back and forth to try to get some of that stuff out of there, because I tried cleaning it out, but like I said, just making sure that we're not putting a whole lot of pressure on it. This is a 3/4 size, so like I said, not doing anything too crazy, not putting a lot of force on it, but you just want to keep in mind that it is a plastic thread, so you want to be careful on stripping it. Okay guys, so off camera I went ahead and put the whole assembly together because my GoPro actually died. So put it together. There's a few little screws here, and then for the temperature, that little guy right there, that little rubber grommet, is a pain to get in and out. And as you can see, there's the new filter, and you just gotta install these little guys. So now what we're gonna do is go ahead and install it in the Jeep. And they say you're supposed to do it through the throttle body first. So we're gonna do that. All right, so now that it's all hooked up, we're gonna snug up the clamps here, connecting to the throttle body with just the flat head. You got two of them. You got one on the throttle body, one connecting to the intake tube. I'm gonna get those nice and snug, that way nothing gets loose. Alright guys, so we got it installed. It's still super hot out, and it's taking me a little bit longer than it probably should have to done this. But now we're just gonna reconnect this 10mm bolt, the crankcase vent valve, and then the inlet air temp valve, and then also reconnect the battery. And then we will go take it for a drive, and I'll show you guys the difference between stock how it sounded, and now with the intake how it sounded. I'm just gonna wait for these peeps to pass. It feels so weird to drive this thing hard. All right, here we go. Second gear. Alright guys, so as you can see, and here, the new intake does sound a lot better. It gives it a much deeper growl, inside as well as out. It's, so far, with the first, I don't know, hour and a half that I've had it, I'm pretty happy with it. Install probably could have been a little bit smoother. There were a few things that kind of took me a little bit of extra time, plus my GoPro kept dying, so that didn't help. But overall, it was pretty simple. There are a few little things that take your time with, like when you're trying to pop off the grill here, you do want to make sure that you take your time with that. You don't want to break it, because that would suck. But overall, pretty easy. Definitely can do it in your driveway. It's just, again, if you watch a 12-minute video, don't think it's going to take 12 minutes, because nothing ever, when you try to install it yourself, ever takes the time that they say. They're like, oh, it takes 30 minutes. And then 3 hours later, you know, something always pops up. But anyways guys, so far I'm pretty happy with it. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a like and subscribe, and if you have any questions, leave a comment down below. Anyways guys, take care, and I will see you in the next video.